Men, we meet again, and today's topic is something that hits extremely close to home for me. So, one of my goals for this new year is to be more transparent and honest in these videos because my aim is for men to be able to discover the truth on how they're called to live, and I feel like I'm called to prepare the way for that. So, I'm going to be even more transparent, even more open because I know my past struggles, my current struggles, the things that I have went through and am going through. I am not the only one, so I'm going to start this off real raw and uncut. So, today, we're going to talk about one thing that did destroy my marriage because I allowed it to. So that one thing that destroyed my marriage because I allowed it to was pornography. Take a minute, let that set in. I just said pornography. Absolutely. You see, here's the thing. All of us watching this at one time may have or currently are struggling with pornography, but what happens is no one talks about it. No one talks about the struggle. They just sweep it under the rug. And so what happens, it festers and it festers and it pulls at our relationships in life. And it pulls at our worth and it pulls at our identity. And we let it drain life from it. But what happens is we never talk about it because it's awkward. So I'm going to talk about it because it affected my life for 8 years. And I hope that it encourages you to talk about it. More so, I hope it encourages you to have a different view on your life. So this is what happened. So for 8 years, I struggled with pornography because I believed the lie that it's just what men do. I believed that lie for so long, it justified and rationalized my behavior. So if you're that man right now who's watching this, and you have that mentality that watching porn is just what a man does, I'm calling bullshit right now. I'm calling that on you. You have came to believe that lie that that's just what men do, when in actuality men are called to greater. Men are called to leave legacies. Men are called to leave. Men are called to reject passivity, accept responsibility. And when you're pouring energy and effort into porn that leads to nothing for anyone around you, then that gives back to no one. So, if you are that man that struggles, hey man, I have been there. For 8 years, I struggled. And what led to change in my life was I literally had to watch my girlfriend, who was now my wife at the time, walk out on me. And she walked out on me because she should have. She walked out on me because I invested more time in that crap than I invested in her. I invested more time in the sexuality aspect than I invested in her. And so when she walked out, I had to get a place to understand that the lie that I was believing was doing nothing for my life. And so what I did was, man, I went through this season, this long season, to where I surrounded myself with people who could uplift me. I surrounded myself with men who could hold me accountable, who could call me on my BS, who challenged me to live a different life. So that's what I'm here to do today. Men, if you are that man who is struggling with porn, if you are that married man who invests more time in a video of a girl on a screen than you do in your own wife, then I'm going to call you out on that. I'm going to call you that you are called to live different. You're called to stop believing the lie. You're called to produce. Man, you're called to lead. You're called to be responsible. So the first thing you need to do is get to the place where you say you have a problem. Here's the thing. Most men aren't going to admit they have a problem. Because most men, hey man, we're prideful. Nah, we got it all. We're good. We're good, man. It's not a problem. We're good. So here's the challenge. See if you can go without it for a couple of days. Heck, see if you can go without it for a week. Bet your mind's going to be thinking about it, because what happens is you start to skew your brain. You start to skew the view that how you view women. You start to skew the view of sexuality. Your worth and identity gets wrapped up in the lies. So when I went through that, I literally had to readjust my brain. I had to think of new ways to think, new ways to view women, new ways to view relationships. So what I did was I surrounded myself with men. I poured into my spirituality. I stopped believing the lie that it's just what men do. I started listening to truth. I started believing in truth. I started investing in relationships that mattered. I started investing back in my wife when 7 or 8 months later, she finally came back in the picture. So the challenge for you this week is I can guarantee you that I am living proof that your life will only get better. Your relationships get better. Your discipline in other areas of your life will get better. Your impact and influence on your family, your friends, your relationships will only get better once you stop believing the lie that watching porn is just what men do. So, if you are that man who struggles, man, if you want to reach out, more than happy to. One thing I want to share with you guys is that there is freedom in confession. And there is freedom in the fact that you don't have to live this way. If you are bound up in chains of addiction, if you are bound up in believing that lie, I can promise you first and foremost, man, that God wants greater for you. Remember the legacy you are called to leave. Remember that men are called to lead, to reject passivity, to be hungry and humble and have heart. And none of that is happening when you're investing that time in a woman on screen that does nothing for you or for the people around you. So, To elevate your life in 2018, the first thing you got to do is admit you have a problem. The second thing you got to do is take steps to change. Be the agent of change in your life. You have the ability to change. You have the power to change. Do what is necessary to get to where you want to be.